The stars twinkled against the vast blackness of space as the Earth Defense Force starship Venture approached the designated meeting point. Captain Laura Miller stood on the bridge, her hands clasped behind her back, eyes fixed on the main view screen. Draconian. Vessels detected, Captain. 5 ships, including their command carrier, reported Jack Walsh, the tactical officer. His fingers moved quickly across his console as he analyzed the incoming data. Laura nodded. Right on time. At least they're punctual before they try to intimidate us. She straightened her uniform and turned to her communications officer. Open. A channel. The screen flickered, revealing the scaled face of the Draconian ambassador. His yellow eyes narrowed as he regarded the humans with what Laura had come to recognize as their version of a smile. All teeth. No warmth. Captain Miller, of Earth. We meet again, the ambassador said, his voice a low rumble. Ambassador Skazik, thank you for agreeing to these talks. Laura kept her voice steady, diplomatic. Humans were still new to the galactic community. With only 2 colony worlds compared to the Draconians' 3 star systems, Earth needed to tread carefully. The meeting lasted 4 hours. The Draconians made their usual demands for mining rights in the Proxima system. Earth offered limited trade agreements instead. Neither side was happy, but neither side walked away. In diplomatic terms, Laura counted it as a win. After the Draconians ended transmission, Jack approached her station. Captain, I noticed something odd during the meeting. Laura looked up from her notes. What kind of odd? Energy fluctuations. From their ships, not consistent with normal operations, almost like they were scanning us but on frequencies we've never seen them use before. Laura frowned. Send the data to intelligence, but don't make a fuss about it. Probably just another attempt to figure out our defense capabilities. Yes, Captain, Jack said, but his expression remained troubled. The Venture returned to Earth 3 days later. Laura filed her report, attended debriefings, and resumed her normal duties. Relations with the Draconians remained tense but stable, until they weren't. 7 days after the meeting, Laura was woken by an urgent call from Fleet Command. Captain Miller, report to headquarters immediately, came Admiral Paul Garcia's voice, tight with strain. Security level Alpha. 2 hours later, Laura sat in a room with Earth's top military and scientific leaders, staring at the holographic display in disbelief. All contact lost? She asked. With their entire empire? Admiral Garcia nodded, his face grim. Not just communication. Their ships, all 200-plus vessels in their main fleet, have vanished. Monitoring stations near the Draconian worlds report drastically reduced space traffic. It's like their military simply disappeared overnight. The room buzzed with theories. A civil war, a plague, a retreat to plan an attack. What about the other species? The Arcturians? The Nebulon Collective? What do they say? Laura asked. They're as confused as we are, a diplomat answered. The Arcturians have sent scout ships to Draconian space. They report normal civilian activities on their planets, but no military presence. No one's talking. Admiral Garcia cleared his throat. There's something else. Something classified. He entered a command and the display changed to show a research station on Europa, Jupiter's moon. 3 months ago, we established a special research division there. They've been working on a new form of quantum technology, experimental stuff. A woman with short gray hair stepped forward. Director Kelly Hammond, Defense Research. The Europa station experienced an unexpected power surge 8 days ago at 0300 hours. Laura's mind raced. The day after our meeting with the Draconians. Admiral Garcia's expression darkened. Exactly. And approximately 12 hours before the Draconian fleet vanished. Laura leaned forward. Are you suggesting our research station somehow affected their fleet? That's impossible. They were light years away. That's what we need to find out, Garcia said. Captain Miller, you're being reassigned. You'll take the Venture to Europa and investigate this connection. You met with the Draconians last, and you have clearance for this level of classified information. Laura felt a chill run through her. What exactly was this research about, Admiral? Garcia exchanged glances with Director Hammond before answering. Dimensional phase technology. Theoretically, it can shift matter temporarily into another dimension. Theoretically? Laura asked. It's never been tested at full scale, Hammond replied quickly. The Europa team was still working with particles, not ships or people. The meeting ended with Laura receiving her new orders. As she left the room, Jack Walsh was waiting in the corridor. We're heading to Europa, she told him quietly. Pack for ice and secrets. The journey to Jupiter took 2 days. Laura spent the time reading everything she could access about the Europa Research Station and dimensional phase technology. The more she read, the more concerned she became. The venture docked with the Europa Station on the 9th day after the Draconian disappearance. Dr. Olivia Bennett, the lead scientist, greeted them at the airlock. She was younger than Laura expected, maybe mid-30s, with tired eyes and nervous hands. Captain Miller, welcome to Europa. I understand you have questions about our work. I have questions about a power surge that happened just before an entire alien fleet vanished, Laura replied. Dr. Bennett led them through pristine white corridors to a conference room. My team had nothing to do with the Draconians. Our work is purely theoretical. Jack spoke up. Theoretical work doesn't create power surges that register on satellites orbiting Jupiter. Dr. Bennett's face tightened. There was an equipment malfunction. Nothing more. Laura studied the scientist. Dr. Bennett, 200 warships and their crews are missing. If there's even a remote possibility your research is connected, we need to know. Before Bennett could answer, alarms blared throughout the station. A voice came over the speakers. Dr. Bennett to the communications center. Priority message. They rushed to a small room filled with monitoring equipment. A technician looked up, face pale. We're picking up a transmission. It's using Draconian frequencies, but what? Laura demanded. It's in English, Captain, the technician said, and it's asking for help. The room fell silent as the transmission played. Through static and distortion, a voice spoke. This is Draconian vessel, trapped. Help us. The darkness between. They're here with us, please. The message cut off in a burst of static. Laura looked at Dr. Bennett, whose face had gone white. Now would be a good time to tell us what your research really does, Laura said quietly. Dr. Bennett closed her eyes briefly. It was never supposed to be used this way. We were exploring theories about parallel dimensions creating small gateways. Gateways to where? Jack asked. To what we call the void, Bennett whispered. The space between realities. But something went wrong with the last test. The gateway. It grew much larger than our calculations predicted. And it didn't open here. Laura felt her blood run cold. Where did it open? Based on that transmission, Bennett said, looking at the communications console, I think it opened right where the Draconian fleet was hiding, watching us. The implications hit Laura like a physical blow. Earth's experimental technology had accidentally swallowed an entire alien fleet, and whatever dimension they'd been sent to, it wasn't empty. We need to know exactly what's in this void, Laura said, and we need to know if those ships can come back, or if something else might follow them out. Laura stared at the recording of the distress signal, playing it for the 3rd time. The voice sounded desperate, afraid, not emotions she expected from a Draconian. Dr. Bennett, I need the whole truth now, Laura said. What exactly is this void? And what might be in there with the Draconians? Dr. Bennett sank into a chair, suddenly looking much older. The void isn't like normal space. It exists between dimensions, a kind of buffer zone. Our initial scans showed it was empty, just darkness and strange energy patterns. Clearly it's not empty, Jack said, pointing to the console where the distress signal had come through. We never sent anything alive in there, Bennett insisted. Just probes, small ones. They sent back readings, then disappeared after a few minutes. Laura narrowed her eyes. Disappeared? Or were they destroyed? Bennett looked away. We couldn't tell. The signal just stopped. The doors slid open, and Dr. Nathan Klein, the ship's science officer, entered with Maria Rodriguez, head of security. Laura had requested their presence as soon as they docked. "I've reviewed the station's power logs," Nathan said without preamble. "The surge wasn't just big, it was massive, nearly 3 times what their generators should be capable of producing." Maria nodded. "And I've checked the personnel files. 6 military officers were assigned here 3 months ago. That's unusual for a scientific research station." Laura turned to Bennett. "You weren't just conducting theoretical research, were you?" Bennett sighed. "No. The military division wanted applications, ways to use the technology." "As a weapon," Laura said, flatly. "As a defense system," Bennett corrected. "The ability to shift incoming threats into another dimension, even temporarily, could save millions of lives." Jack snorted. "Or start an interstellar war if you accidentally banish an entire alien fleet." Bennett's face crumpled. "We never intended for a full-scale test. The calculations were still being refined, but someone authorized an increase in power during our scheduled test window." "Who?" Laura demanded. "I don't know," Bennett said. "The order came through proper channels with all the right authorization codes. We followed protocol." Nathan was studying the station schematics on his tablet. "According to this, your main equipment is housed in the central lab, but there's a much larger power system underneath the station, extending deep into Europa's ice." Bennett tensed. "That area is restricted. Even I need special clearance." "Well, I have full authority from Admiral Garcia to investigate everything," Laura said, showing her orders. "Take us there." Bennett reluctantly led them through the station, to a secure elevator. After scanning her credentials and entering a lengthy code, the doors opened. "This wasn't in the original station design," Maria noted as they descended. "No," Bennett admitted. "It was added later, after our initial successes with the smaller gateway." The elevator stopped, and they stepped out into an enormous chamber hollowed from Europa's ice. At its center stood a circular metal structure, 30 meters across, with strange equipment positioned around it. "Is that what I think it is?" Jack asked. "A full-sized gateway," Bennett confirmed. "But it's never been activated at full power. We've only run diagnostics and low-level tests." Laura approached the structure slowly. Yet somehow a gateway opened near the Draconian fleet. If not from here, then from where? Before Bennett could answer, Nathan called out from a control panel. "Captain, I'm finding hidden data files. Test records that aren't in the official logs." "What kind of tests?" Laura asked. Nathan's fingers flew over the controls. "Remote activations. Targeted gateways not here, but at specific coordinates in space, small at first, then progressively larger." Laura whirled to face Bennett. "You were opening gateways in deep space, without authorization?" "Not my team," Bennett said, her face pale. "We never conducted remote tests. The technology shouldn't even be capable of that yet." "Well, someone did," Nathan said. "The last test was 8 days ago, targeting empty space near the edge of our solar system." Jack checked his own device. "That's exactly where our long-range sensors detected Draconian energy signatures 2 weeks ago. They were watching us, cloaked." The pieces fell into place in Laura's mind. "So when the gateway opened, it caught the entire fleet," Maria finished. "Dragged them into this void." A new transmission suddenly blared from their communicators. The same Draconian voice, clearer now. "This is Captain Krell of the Imperial warship Dominance. We are trapped in some kind of dark dimension. Our ships are being attacked. The shadows here, they move. They hunt. 23 vessels already lost. Please respond." Laura grabbed Bennett's arm. "Can you communicate with them?" "Theoretically, yes," Bennett said. "The quantum link works both ways, but opening any connection, even for communication, could let whatever's in there find a way out." Nathan finished, his voice grim. Laura made her decision. "Set up a communication link, minimal power. We need more information." It took nearly an hour for Bennett's team to establish a secure channel. When they finally made contact, the video feed showed only darkness with occasional blue lights flickering across the screen. "Captain Krell, This is Captain Laura Miller of Earth. Can you hear me? A reptilian face appeared suddenly, illuminated by emergency lighting. His scales were dull, his eyes wide with fear. Earth vessel, you received our signal. Krell hissed. You must help us. The Dark Ones are consuming our ships, our people. Dark Ones? Laura asked. What do you mean? Entities in this void, Krell said, looking over his shoulder. Shadow. Creatures. They feed on energy, on matter. They've destroyed many ships already. We cannot fight them with weapons. How many of your fleet remain? Jack asked. Perhaps 50 vessels still intact, Krell answered. We clustered together using our combined shields, but they are failing, and the Dark Ones are learning, adapting. Laura exchanged looks with her team. We'll try to help you, but we need to understand what happened. Were you monitoring Earth's solar system when you were pulled into the void? Krell hesitated, then nodded. Yes. Our fleet was conducting surveillance. Your people have been concerning us. Strange energy readings from your system. Power signatures unlike any we had detected before the phase technology tests, Bennett whispered. Did you intend to attack Earth? Laura asked directly. Not immediately, Krell admitted. We were gathering intelligence. Your species is young, but developing technologies that took others centuries to master. Some in our empire wanted to limit your growth. Suddenly, the video feed distorted. Screeching alarms could be heard in the background. They're coming again, Krell shouted. The shield is failing. We need... The transmission cut off abruptly. Bennett tried to re-establish contact, but nothing came through. What just happened? Maria asked. Nathan checked the readings from their communication link. Something interfered with the signal from their side. Some kind of energy surge. Laura turned to Bennett. Doctor, I need to know everything about these Dark Ones. Was there any indication of life forms in your probe data? Bennett shook her head slowly. No, but there were anomalies. Energy patterns that didn't match known physics. Readings that made no sense. Because you weren't looking for life, Nathan suggested. You were looking for empty space. A high-ranking officer in a crisp uniform stepped into the chamber. Laura recognized him immediately. Admiral Garcia, she said. I wasn't expecting. You here? Garcia's face was somber. Captain Miller, I received your preliminary report and came immediately. The situation is worse than we thought. You knew about the remote gateway tests, Laura said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Garcia admitted. They were authorized at the highest level, but we had no idea the Draconian fleet was there, and we certainly didn't know about these entities. The, Draconians are being attacked, possibly killed, Laura said. We have to help them. How? Garcia asked. We can't open another gateway, it's too dangerous. Actually, Bennett said slowly, we might be able to create a stable passage. A controlled gateway. Just long enough for a rescue mission. Garcia shook his head firmly. Absolutely not. The risk is too great. Laura stepped forward. With respect, Admiral, we can't leave them there to die. That's not who we are. And if these entities are as dangerous as they seem, we need to know more about them. Because sooner, or later, Jack added, they might find their own way out. Admiral Garcia paced the length of the chamber, his boots echoing against the metal floor. Captain Miller, I understand your concern for the Draconians, but my priority is Earth's safety. With all due respect, Admiral, Laura replied, if these entities can destroy Draconian warships, they're a threat to us too. We need intelligence. Nathan nodded in agreement. The Draconians have been in direct contact with these creatures. The information they've gathered could be invaluable. Garcia stopped pacing and sighed heavily. You have 12 hours to develop a rescue plan. If I don't like it, we shut this whole station down. After Garcia left, Laura gathered her team and Dr. Bennett in the research lab. We need options. Dr. Bennett, tell us more about the void. Bennett brought up a holographic display. The void doesn't follow our physics. Time, space, even matter behaves differently there. Our probes recorded impossible readings, energy without source, movement without mass. Like the shadow creatures, Krell described, Jack said. Exactly. Bennett manipulated the display, showing a swirling darkness punctuated by strange blue lights. We thought these were energy fluctuations, but they could be life forms. Maria leaned forward. So how do we mount a rescue in a place where physics doesn't work normally? We need a ship, Laura decided. Something that can handle unusual conditions. Jack nodded. The Horizon. It's a research vessel designed for extreme environments, currently docked at the main Europa port. Can we modify it for void conditions? Laura asked. Theoretically, Bennett said. We could adapt the shield technology based on what we learned from our probes, but entering the void is risky. We don't know if humans can survive there. Nathan was examining the probe data. The Draconians have survived for over a week. Their biology isn't that different from ours. Laura made her decision. We request the Horizon and begin modifications immediately. Dr. Bennett, you'll need to create a stable gateway large enough for the ship to pass through, and strong enough to remain open until we return, Jack added. Bennett looked uncertain. I can try, but maintaining a stable connection will be difficult. The energy requirements. Alone, use whatever you need, Laura said. Admiral Garcia gave us 12 hours to create a plan. Let's make it good enough that he can't say no. The team worked through the night. Bennett and Nathan focused on the gateway calculations, while Jack and Maria prepared equipment. Laura coordinated with the Horizon's crew, selecting volunteers for the dangerous mission. By morning, they had a plan to present to Admiral Garcia. The modified Horizon would enter the void, locate the remaining Draconian ships, and extract as many survivors as possible within a 48-hour window. Garcia reviewed their proposal with a frown. The risk is enormous. If anything goes wrong, if these shadow entities follow you back, we've designed a failsafe, Bennett interrupted. A quantum destabilizer that can collapse the gateway from either side. And if you're still in there when it collapses? Garcia asked. Laura met his gaze, steadily. Then we don't come back, but Earth stays safe. Garcia studied her face, then looked at each member of the team. You all understand the risk? This is volunteer only. They nodded solemnly. Fine, Garcia said finally. You have provisional approval, but I want hourly updates and a direct communication link at all times. Preparations moved quickly after that. The Horizon arrived and Bennett's team began the modifications. Special shielding was installed along with powerful lights, the only thing that seemed to repel the shadow entities, according to Krell's transmission. Laura selected a small crew, herself, Jack, Maria, Dr. Klein, and 5 specialists from the Horizon, including Lieutenant Steve Carter, an experienced pilot. 20 hours later, they stood before the massive gateway as Bennett initiated the startup sequence. The circular structure hummed with energy, and the space within it darkened, then seemed to tear open, revealing a swirling void. Gateway stable, Bennett reported, her voice tense. Establishing quantum tether now. This will keep us connected to normal space, Nathan explained to the crew, and hopefully allow communications to pass through. Laura took a deep breath. Final equipment check. Everyone remember, we have 48 hours maximum before the gateway becomes unstable. The Horizon moved slowly into position before the gateway. Bennett's voice came through the comms. Good luck, Captain Miller. We'll be monitoring you the whole time. Understood, Laura replied. Horizon proceeding through gateway in 3, 2, 1. The sensation of passing through the gateway was unlike anything Laura had experienced. A moment of crushing pressure, then weightlessness, then a strange pulling sensation in every direction at once. And then, darkness. Status report, she called, blinking as her eyes adjusted. Shields holding, Jack reported. Life support nominal, but the engines are struggling to maintain position. The physics here are different, Nathan said, checking his instruments. Our thrusters aren't working efficiently. Laura activated the external lights. The beams cut through the darkness, revealing a strange landscape. Not empty space as they expected, but a swirling, shifting void filled with patterns that hurt. The eyes to look at. Any sign of the Draconian fleet? Laura asked. Lieutenant Carter adjusted the sensors. detecting metal masses approximately 20 kilometers ahead. Could be ships. Take us there. Slow approach, Laura ordered. Keep the lights at maximum. As they moved forward, they began to see shapes in the darkness, large floating objects that gradually resolved into the familiar silhouettes of Draconian warships. But something was wrong. The ships, Maria whispered. They're being eaten. Laura stared in horror. The Draconian vessels were partially dissolved, their metal hulls seeming to melt into the darkness. Around them, shadow-like entities moved, flowing over the ship's surfaces like liquid night. Where they passed, material simply disappeared. They're consuming the ships, Nathan said, scanning furiously. Converting matter to energy somehow. As the horizon approached, the shadow entities scattered, fleeing from the powerful lights. They don't like the light, Jack observed. We can use that. Laura nodded. Scan for life signs. Let's find the survivors. Nathan adjusted the sensors. Getting readings from that central vessel, the largest one. Multiple life forms, but faint. They're running out of air or power, maybe both. Take us in, Laura ordered. Prepare docking procedures. The horizon maneuvered carefully toward the Draconian flagship, its lights keeping the shadow entities at bay. As they drew closer, they could see damage across the ship's hull, great gouges where metal had been eaten away, exposing internal decks to the void. How are they still alive in there? Maria wondered. Emergency force fields, maybe, Nathan suggested. Or they've retreated to the core sections. The horizon established a seal with one of the Draconian ship's auxiliary airlocks. Laura led the boarding party, consisting of herself, Jack, Maria, and 2 security specialists. Stay together, she warned. Keep your lights on at all times. They entered the Draconian vessel, finding darkened corridors and emergency lighting that flickered weakly. The air was thin and cold. Life signs ahead, Jack reported, checking his scanner. About 30 meters in what looks like a command center. They moved forward cautiously. Twice they saw shadow entities, darker patches of darkness that fled when their lights hit them. The walls showed signs of damage with strange melted patterns where metal had been partially consumed. The command center doors were sealed. Laura used the emergency override codes they'd prepared based on known Draconian technology. The doors slid open with a hiss. Inside, a group of Draconians huddled together, weapons trained on the entrance. Their scales were dull with exhaustion, their eyes wide with fear. At their center stood a larger Draconian with captain's insignia. Captain Krell? Laura called. I'm Captain Laura Miller of Earth. We've come to help you. Krell lowered his weapon slowly. Humans? You actually came for us? Yes, Laura said. But we don't have much time. The gateway will only stay open for 48 hours. We need to evacuate as many of your people as possible. Krell stared at her for a long moment, then nodded. We have approximately 200 survivors, spread across 3 ships. The rest, the shadows took them. Then we'd better get moving, Laura said. And you need to tell us everything you know about these shadow entities. Because I think they've noticed that we've opened a door to our world. Captain Krell led Laura and her team through the damaged Draconian flagship. Even the mighty reptilian aliens looked shaken, their usual confidence replaced by wary glances at every shadow. We've lost contact with many sections of the ship, Krell explained. The shadow entities broke through our emergency force fields 3 days ago. We've been retreating inward ever since, abandoning deck after deck. How do they attack? Jack asked, keeping his light trained on the darkened corridor. Ahead. They touch you and you dissolve, Krell said, his voice hollow. Not quickly. You remain conscious as they consume you. We can hear the screams through the comms until there's nothing left. Laura shuddered, but kept her voice steady. We need to coordinate evacuation of all survivors. How do we contact the other ships? Our quantum communicators still function in this dimension, Krell said. But the signals don't travel far. We'll need to move the horizon closer to each vessel. They reached a makeshift command post where Draconian officers monitored failing systems. The survivors looked up with a mixture of hope and suspicion as the humans entered. "You've made contact with Earth vessels?" one officer asked Krell. "They've come to rescue us," Krell confirmed. "Against orders, if I understand correctly." Laura nodded. "Our mission wasn't officially sanctioned, but we couldn't leave you here." A Draconian scientist approached, her scales a lighter shade than the others. "Captain, we've been analyzing the entities since our arrival. There's something you should know." She activated a display showing shifting patterns of darkness. "These aren't natural life forms. They're artificial." "Artificial?" Nathan leaned closer to the screen. "You mean they were created?" "Yes," the scientist said. "They have a structure too perfect to be natural. My theory is they're a form of programmable matter, designed to consume energy and materials." "Designed by whom?" Laura asked. The scientist hesitated. "We don't know, but they're ancient, far older than our civilization or yours." Krell turned to Laura. "We need to begin evacuation immediately. The flagship's power core will fail within 12 hours. When it does, the shadows will swarm what remains." Laura nodded. "Lieutenant Carter, bring the Horizon alongside the docking port. We'll take the first group now, then move to the other ships." As Carter acknowledged the order, the lights flickered ominously. A low, vibrating hum filled the air. "What's that?" Maria asked, her hand moving to her weapon. Krell's eyes widened. "They're coming. A coordinated attack. They've never done that before." "Everyone back to the airlock," Laura ordered. "Now!" They rushed through corridors that were growing darker by the second. Behind them, shadows moved against the walls, flowing like liquid, converging. "They're cutting us off," Jack shouted, pointing ahead where darkness gathered, blocking their path. "Alternate route," Krell barked, leading them down a side passage. "Engineering deck has a maintenance shaft that connects to the airlock section." As they ran, Laura contacted the Horizon. "Carter, be ready for emergency departure. The situation has deteriorated." "Understood, Captain," came the reply. "We're seeing unusual activity out here too. The shadow entities are gathering around all the Draconian ships." They reached engineering, a vast chamber dominated by a pulsing power core that emitted a faint blue light. The shadows lurked at the edges of the light, more numerous than Laura had seen before. "They're drawn to the core's energy," the Draconian scientist explained. "But the light keeps them at bay. When it fails, we'll be gone before then," Laura promised. "Where's this maintenance shaft?" Krell pointed to a narrow passage. "Through there, but it will be tight for your species." A sudden surge of darkness from one corner made everyone swing their lights toward it. The shadows retreated, but slower than before. "They're adapting to the light," Nathan observed. "Learning its properties, finding ways to resist." "Move!" Laura ordered. "Single file through the shaft. Jack, take point. Maria, cover our rear." One by one, they entered the maintenance shaft, a cramped tunnel barely wide enough for humans to crawl through. For the larger Draconians, it was an even tighter squeeze. Halfway through, they heard a scream from behind. Laura twisted to look back. "What happened?" she called. "One of my engineers," Krell replied grimly. "He was last in line. The shadows got him." Laura swallowed hard. "Keep moving, we can't help him now." They emerged near the airlock to find the Horizon docked and waiting. Carter met them at the entry point. "Captain, we have a serious problem," he reported. "The shadow entities are gathering around the gateway. Dr. Bennett reports unusual energy readings from her side." "They know it's a way out," Laura realized. "Krell, get your people aboard now. Priority to scientists and those with knowledge of these entities." As the Draconians boarded, Laura contacted Bennett. "Doctor, what's happening with the gateway?" "Something's probing it." Bennett's voice came through with static. "Energy patterns we've never seen before. It's like they're testing the barrier." "Can they get through?" Laura asked. "I don't know," Bennett admitted. "The gateway was designed for physical objects, not energy beings. In theory, the quantum filters should block them, but they're unlike anything we anticipated." The evacuation continued as quickly as possible. 40 survivors from the flagship made it aboard the Horizon before they had to detach. We need to reach the other ships, Krell insisted as they pulled away. Agreed, Laura said. But we'll need to move fast. Those shadows are getting bolder. The Horizon navigated through the void toward the next Draconian vessel. As they approached, they saw it was in worse condition than the flagship, large sections already consumed by the entities. Life signs? Laura asked. Faint, but present, Nathan confirmed. Maybe 60 survivors clustered in the central section. As they prepared to dock, a massive shadow entity appeared before them, far larger than any they'd seen before. It spread across their path like a living wall of darkness. Evasive maneuvers, Laura shouted. Carter adjusted the Horizon's course, but the shadow moved to intercept them, showing a level of intelligence and determination that sent chills through the crew. Maximum lights, Laura ordered. All power to forward arrays. The Horizon's lights blazed outward, causing the shadow to recoil momentarily. But instead of fleeing completely, it split into smaller entities that circled the ship, probing, testing. They're learning, Nathan said, his voice tense. Adapting to our defenses, Krell stepped forward. There was a reason my fleet was monitoring your solar system, Captain Miller. Our long-range sensors detected something unusual near your planet several months ago. Energy signatures similar to these entities. Laura turned to him in shock. What are you saying? We weren't preparing to attack Earth, Krell said quietly. We were investigating a potential breach. Somewhere in your solar system, the barrier between normal space and the void was already weakening. We feared what might come through. Laura's mind raced as pieces fell into place. The Europa station wasn't just developing new technology. It was built to examine this weakness. Or to seal it, Nathan suggested. Which means Earth might have known about these entities already. A call came through from Bennett, her voice urgent. Captain Miller, Admiral Garcia just ordered us to prepare for gateway shutdown. He says the risk is too great. We still have survivors to rescue, Laura protested. I know, Bennett replied. But something's happening to the gateway. The entities are gathering, organizing. Garcia believes they're preparing to breach. Laura looked at Krell, then at the Draconian ship ahead with its trapped survivors, then at the growing swarm of shadow entities surrounding them. Tell Garcia to wait, she said firmly. We have new information that changes everything. The Draconians weren't a threat to Earth. They were trying to protect it. And now we need to find out why. Laura established a direct communication link with Admiral Garcia, her voice firm despite the chaos surrounding the Horizon. Admiral, the Draconians weren't planning an attack. They detected a weakness in the barrier between our dimension and the void. They were investigating, not preparing for war. Garcia's face on the screen showed doubt. That's what they told you? Captain, they could be lying to save themselves. Krell stepped into view. Admiral of Earth, I give you my word as fleet commander. We have historical records of these entities. They invaded our space 3,000 years ago. We barely drove them back. Laura watched Garcia's expression shift as he processed this information. Admiral, we need more time. There are still Draconians to rescue, and we need their knowledge about these entities. After a long pause, Garcia nodded. You have 24 hours, not a minute more. The gateway is becoming increasingly unstable. The connection ended, and Laura turned to Krell. Tell me everything about your previous encounter with these entities. It was before space travel for our species, Krell explained as they navigated toward the second Draconian ship. The entities emerged from a natural rift on our homeworld. They consumed everything they touched. People, buildings, entire cities. How did you stop them? Nathan asked. Our ancient scientists discovered they existed as energy patterns. They created a device that disrupted those patterns, forcing the entities back into the rift, then sealed it. And the knowledge to create such a device? Laura pressed. Krell hesitated. Legend says it came from another race, one that had fought the entities before. They reached the second ship and docked quickly. The rescue operation was more difficult this time. The shadow entities had consumed more of the vessel, leaving only a small pocket of survivors in the central command area. As they guided 58 more Draconians to safety, Laura noticed something troubling. The shadow entities were no longer simply flowing across surfaces. They were forming distinct shapes, almost like crude bodies. "They're evolving," Nathan observed, "or remembering a form they once had." The largest entity, which Laura had come to think of as the leader, maintained position between them and the third Draconian ship. It seemed to be studying the horizon, learning. "We need a distraction to reach the last ship," Laura decided. "Krell, you mentioned your flagship's power core is failing. What would happen if it overloaded?" "A massive energy release," Krell replied. "It would create a shockwave even in this dimension, and draw the entities to it," Jack added, catching Laura's plan. "Exactly," she confirmed. "We set the core to overload. The entities are attracted to the energy surge and we slip past to the third ship." Krell nodded. "I can program the sequence remotely, but timing will be critical." While Krell worked, Laura received an urgent call from Bennett. "Captain, Admiral Garcia just shared something alarming. They've been analyzing ancient structures found under Earth's Pacific Ocean. The symbols match patterns the shadow entities form when they gather." Laura felt a chill run through her. "What are you saying?" "These entities have been to Earth before," Bennett said. "The structures are estimated to be over 1,000,000 years old, and there's more. Geological evidence suggests an advanced civilization existed then but suddenly vanished." Before Laura could process this, Krell announced he had set the flagship's core to overload in 10 minutes. "Everyone secure for rapid acceleration," Laura ordered. "As soon as the core blows, we make our move." The minutes crawled by. Through the viewports, they watched the shadow entities becoming more organized, more purposeful. The leader had grown larger, absorbing smaller entities into itself. "1 minute to core overload," Krell announced. Laura gripped her chair. "Helm, plot course to the third vessel. Maximum thrust on my mark." The flagship's core detonated in a silent flash of blue energy that rippled through the void. The shadow entities immediately swarmed toward it, drawn by the massive energy release. "Now!" Laura commanded. The horizon shot forward, lights dimmed, to avoid attention. They reached the third ship in minutes and found only 23 survivors, all of them injured or weakened. "That's all of them," Laura said as the last Draconian was brought aboard. "Set course for the gateway." As they turned back, Laura saw the leader entity had not followed the others to the energy release. It hovered directly in their path, now massive and vaguely humanoid in shape. "It knew our plan," Maria whispered. "Full lights," Laura ordered. "All power to engines. We're going through it." The horizon surged forward, lights blazing. The entity recoiled but did not flee completely. Instead, it seemed to reach for them. As they passed, tendrils of darkness stretching toward the ship. "Captain," Nathan called urgently. "It's trying to attach to our hull. Increase power to shields," Laura commanded. "We can't let it make contact." They broke free, but not before the entity had touched the outer hull. Alarms blared as sensors detected a section of the ship's exterior beginning to dissolve. "Seal off affected sections," Laura ordered. "Reroute power from non-essential systems." They raced toward the gateway, now visible as a swirling distortion in the distance. Behind them, the shadow entities had finished consuming the energy from the core explosion and were in pursuit, a wave of darkness flowing through the void. "Bennett," Laura called over the comms. "Prepare for our arrival. We have the survivors, but the entities are right behind us." "Understood," Bennett replied. "Admiral Garcia has something to tell you." Garcia's face appeared on the screen, his expression grave. "Captain Miller, our scientists have translated more of the underwater symbols. They tell a story about humanity." "What story?" Laura asked as the horizon approached the gateway. "The ancient civilization wasn't alien. It was human. An advanced human society that existed 1,000,000 years before our recorded history. They didn't vanish. They fled, from Earth to colony worlds, escaping the entities." Laura stared at the screen in shock. "That's impossible." "The genetic evidence confirms it," Garcia continued. "And the Europa station? It wasn't built to create new technology. It was built on the ruins of an ancient facility, one designed to maintain a prison. Understanding dawned on Laura's face. The void isn't a natural dimension. It's artificial, a prison created to contain these entities. And we just opened the door. The horizon reached the gateway, passing through the swirling distortion back into normal space. As soon as they emerged, Bennett activated emergency protocols, beginning the shutdown sequence. The last thing Laura saw before the gateway closed was the leader entity, its form now clearly humanoid, reaching toward them with something that looked terrifyingly like recognition. The gateway collapsed with a flash of energy, cutting off the void and the entities within it. For now, in the aftermath, as the Draconians were treated and debriefed, Krell sought out Laura in the observation deck overlooking Europa. "Your admiral told me what they discovered," he said quietly, "about your species' true history." Laura nodded, still processing the revelation. 1,000,000 years of lost human civilization, advanced enough to build dimensional prisons and colonize other worlds. "And now the entities know about you again," Krell said. "The gateway is closed, but they've seen the way out. They'll find another. Then we'll be ready," Laura replied, looking out at the stars. "Humans and Draconians together." Krell made a gesture of respect. "Your ancestors were wise and powerful to create such a prison. That legacy lives in you, whether you remembered it or not." Deep below Europa's surface, in sections of the ancient facility that remained unexplored, symbols identical to those found under Earth's oceans began to glow with faint blue light. 1,000,000 years dormant, now awakening as if responding to what had happened. The prison was sealed again, but the prisoners had learned much in their brief contact with the outside world. And somewhere in the darkness between dimensions, the leader entity, formed into an unmistakably human shape, began to plan.